No fear. No political correctness. No wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salvato. Before we get into this segment of America's Third Watch, I wanted to reiterate a point we discussed in the segment. Everything that is happening and all of its consequences is by design. Remember during the 2008 general election when Barack Obama told the crowd, "We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America"?
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
He wasn't kidding. Throughout his tenure as president, we saw a multitude of policy executions that divided our country socially while redistributing wealth on an enormous scale. Through the Trump administration, the Marxists that comprised the Obama team, and I used the word Marxist literally and by definition, developed every opportunity to maintain that social divide and even expand the gulf by using the cult of personality in reverse, creating an unhinged and deranged demographic that seethed hatred for Trump, seeding that hatred on rumor, innuendo, and unfounded accusations. The nation's fundamental transformation continued at full throttle into the Obama 2.0 administration, otherwise known disingenuously as the Biden administration. And what didn't stop was the demonization of Trump, now a former president, with a vicious execution of unconstitutional lawfare, which continues on even as a majority of Americans hold the actions in contempt. This is all by design. The Neo-Bolshevik left in the United States, now in elected office and commonly referred to as the far left, has always hated the Constitution and Bill of Rights. They started the transformation with the Wilson administration by viewing the charters as mere suggestions to be manipulated in the pursuit of transformative change. From limitations on and the redefining of free speech and Second Amendment rights, to abandoning apportioned taxation and creating rights not amended to the Constitution, to openly employing lawfare to effect political persecution, the Neo-Bolsheviks are destroying our constitutional republic on purpose, by design. Obama told us what he and his Marxist brethren were going to do, and they've been doing it ever since 2008. Let me take a moment to define Neo-Bolshevism. Neo-Bolshevism is characterized by its advocacy for Marxist-Leninist principles, including centralized state control, revolutionary activism, and establishing a socialist or communist state. Supporters of Neo-Bolshevism often view the original Bolsheviks, a faction of the Russian Socialist Democratic Labor Party that played a significant role in the Russian Revolution of 1917, as a model for contemporary political movements seeking to implement similar reforms and strategies in their quest for social and economic change. Sound familiar? Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton both have openly been supportive of this political ideology. The only way we can stop these neo-Bolshevik assholes is to achieve sizable majorities in both chambers of the legislative branch this November so that Democrats, and I say that in air quotes, can't stop Trump 2.0 from purging the deep state bureaucracy of the Marxist elements installed ever since the Clinton administration. The problem we face is this. Even though a majority of American voters, and this is even in the swing states, are now trending towards Trump, that trend is not translating to the down-ticket races. Without solid majorities in Congress, the purge necessary to regain fidelity to the Constitution and Bill of Rights will be short-lived and ineffective. So it's time to start laying a fair portion of the blame for the mess we're in at the feet of the elitist, opportunistic, neo-fascist Bolsheviks, and I'm using the word Bolshevik literally, who have rubber-stamped Obama's agenda into reality. They are executing a Marxist revolution in real time and have been for the last 16 years. It's well past time we took a stand to stop the destruction of our country. The only way to do that is to confront the Neo-Bolsheviks in the present and vote the fuckers out in November. When we come back, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.
You're listening to Underground USA.
When someone is having a stroke, every minute counts. Just as putting out a fire quickly can stop it from spreading, treating a stroke quickly can reduce damage to the brain. The clock begins ticking as soon as you spot the signs of a stroke, because some treatments can only be used if the patient reaches the hospital in the first 3 hours after symptoms appear. So don't wait. Call 911 right away and get the person to a hospital immediately, even if the symptoms go away. If you think someone is having a stroke, remember the word FAST. F is for face. Ask the person to smile and check whether one side of their face is drooping. A is for arms. Have the person raise both arms and see if one arm drifts downwards. S is for speech. Ask the person to repeat a short phrase and notice if their words sound slurred. And finally, T is for time. If you spot any of these signs, call 911 right away to get the person to a hospital fast. Strokes are medical emergencies. The sooner a patient gets treatment, the better their chance of a good recovery.
News, insight, passion. AM 930, The Answer.
One of the things we might find out about on Friday, at least according to some reports, and we don't know if it's really going to happen today or not, but the Supreme Court may bring down their immunity decision about Donald Trump. Well, what do you think might happen with that?
Well, I never, ever try to prognosticate about the Supreme Court because nobody really knows how they fall. Lately, they've been falling towards the Constitution, which is refreshing. But, you can go all the way back to Obamacare when John Roberts decided to change what the legislature intended to happen when he called it a tax to allow it to stand. So surprises happen. If we go by the Constitution, then they should rule on the side of Donald Trump because the president needs to have immunity from damning decisions he must make while in office to be able to be flexible as a leader. But, the left, for some reason, doesn't understand that. They want to go after Donald Trump to make sure that he's too damaged to win an election against somebody who is severely cognitively declined. Mm-hmm. So they have to destroy him at every turn. But constitutionally, the immunity should stand for the presidency. I'm not saying he can go out and shoot somebody, but you have to have leeway to be able to do things when you are commander-in-chief and when you're the head of the executive branch. There's a lot of legislation out there that Congress has passed that isn't actually according to Hoyle when it comes to the Constitution. So they could pass something that isn't constitutional. The president would be mandated to execute it because that's what the executive branch is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And then what? Now the people who passed the law can come back and say that we want to indict him once he's out of office because of what he did. That doesn't make any sense. That turns everything into politics. And the judicial branch just doesn't exist that way. And we're getting real close to that with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Well, too, Frank, it looks like, especially on the left, that, they want Donald Trump to just, be prosecuted for anything and everything. And so they're hoping, of course, that there's no immunity or incredibly limited immunity, but certainly no immunity from their perspective. But I think what's really very concerning to me is that they're willing to literally destroy the system just to get Donald Trump and actually make it so much harder, like you're talking about, for any future leader to be able to do the job of president or any other government elected official job. This is how much they hate Trump, and they're willing to burn the house down because of it.
We have to remember who is pulling the strings here. We've got Obama 2.0. I wrote an article last week that mentioned 21 if you count Holder and Valerie Jarrett, 19 people who are still in the administration that served under Obama. They don't like the Constitution. He ran on 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. And he was serious. He wasn't just blowing smoke to the far left. He meant to dismantle this thing. They think the Constitution is a list of suggestions. They think we're an imperialistic power. They are Marxist in nature, and that's by definition. So they would love to be able to not only take down their opponent, but destroy the system as well to recreate it the way they want to. Remember, they love redefining things.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Bringing new definitions and even using the word democracy in ways that it's not supposed to be used in order to gin up all kinds of division in this country.
Yeah, and it can't be repeated enough. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. That's why we have representation. A democracy is nothing more than 51% gets to rule. There are no rights for the minority. The framers were brighter than that. They made sure that minority rights were protected by the use of representative government under a constitution. So when you hear someone talk about our democracy, immediately respond by saying, we're not a democracy, we are a constitutional republic. Learn your history.
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens when we don't teach history and civics in junior high school and high school. We're too busy worried about whether trans rights is happening. Should men wear dresses? What bathroom do I go to? And boy, that man bun looks nice.
Well, this issue with the NDAA, the latest round for the defense authorization, includes the provision to have women, have them register for selective service, basically, and it has created quite a reaction. Even here on the program, we've been talking about it here this morning. What's your take on this?
Well, overarching to all of it is the fact that Democrats feel the need to bring up the idea of a draft.
Yeah.
Going towards the election. This is just one more piece of evidence that they have nothing to run on, and they need to throw as much fear out there as humanly possible. We have an all-volunteer army. We haven't had a draft since the Vietnam War, and it ended then. So this idea that we have to start talking about a draft during an election cycle is showboating, and it's pathetic. That said, and I know this probably won't be popular with our audience, with equal rights comes equal burdens. So you had an entire movement that said everybody must be equal, no matter the color, no matter the gender, no matter what you want to identify as. So if that's the case, then the burden must be equal as well. It doesn't mean you have to put people who are unqualified on the front lines. This is where the idea of meritocracy comes in. You put the best person for the job in the positions for that job. It should be colorblind, genderblind. Believe me, there are women in law enforcement and women in the fire service who not only hold their own weight against men, but sometimes surpass it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and it's a volunteer force, and I think that it's amazing how many women we have in our armed forces. And of course, they have our full support. It's an interesting thing, though, of course, because it does start this division once again.
No, of course. And that's exactly what they mean to use this subject for in this election cycle, is to create that division. You know, if you're going by their rhetoric about everything is equal, then you have to have an equal burden as well. You can't avoid that. You can't say yes on some terms, but no on others. You know, it comes down to what Victor Davis Hanson was talking about when you go into orchestral tryouts. It happens behind a curtain. You don't know if it's a male, a female, if they're black, Asian, white. You know, you don't know. It's based on, wow, was that the best performer or not?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get back to that in this country. The idea that the AMA is saying, well, you know, race has to come into it. No, it doesn't. I want the best doctor. I want the best. I want the best pilot. I want the best law enforcement officer coming through the door when I need someone to have a weapon to protect me. I want the best firefighter coming through the window. You know, the idea that just because somebody wants to be something that they get to be it, you got to earn that. The country isn't based on you will get. It's based on you've got the opportunity to get.
It's a huge difference, isn't it?
No,
it's huge. Yeah,
it's just as huge as equity and equality, and there's a gulf between those two words.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, there is. Well, Frank, would you like to take a telephone call this morning?
Sure.
All right, we got Eric in Tennessee. He's got a question or comment for Frank Salvato this morning. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, Kyle. Good morning, Frank. Thanks for taking my call. Real quick, you guys are talking about I read that last week that they put into the NDAA, the amendment, that would be an automatic selective service registration for all able-bodied persons between 18 and, if I'm not mistaken, 26. I was kind of shocked because, quote unquote, it is automatic. It means you go for your driver's license, you register for the voting. They're trying to interlock the databases and populate them with who has or who has not registered. It's a multifaceted issue, but you got some of the lowest voluntary recruiting numbers since World War II in the United States and tacitly within the Western world. You got European governments also widening their base of stance regarding compulsory service, meaning you will serve in the armed forces of X, Y, and Z military. You will, if you're a woman, you will serve. And I think it goes hand in glove with what we see going on in Ukraine and just the battle space that's in my opinion, getting ready to expand within the next 5 years, 36 to 60 months. Here's the thing on this. I feel that this is an effort in order to further smudge the transgendered agenda into the United States military, thereby having these, what were once considered cosmetic surgeries, performed as a medical necessity surgery on some of these people, if you will. I'll take my comments off the air. Thanks, and have a good morning.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the call. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, they've already got orders from the top to perform those surgeries as an elective for the military. So this is gonna take a reversal of orders with a reversal of the administration policies, and that's the larger thing there. This is why you can't bring these social agendas into the execution of government. You know, politics is one thing. Government needs to be things that are legislated. When you forcing social issues into the political and governmental realm, this is the kind of thing that you end up with, and it just creates divide. The federal government has no purview over that, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just don't. There's nothing in the Constitution that says, hey, if you want to change your sex, you have a right to it. You just don't. It's not there.
Right. Well, exactly right. Exactly right. Well, in the time we have left, Frank, again, another terrible tragedy. 12-year-old girl was killed by two migrants who were arrested for this, we understand. But again, it's a case of if they weren't in this country to begin with, this would never have happened.
And it's beyond the borders of the United States. It happened in France as well. 3 people who were screaming anti-Semitic the slurs at a Jewish girl took her, beat her, and raped her. This is about national sovereignty and making sure that your borders are protected against people who would do things like this. When you just open your borders to let people in, You don't know who you're letting in. There is no vetting process happening in the United States right now, and there's a very lax vetting process happening in Europe. That's one of the reasons the European elections went to the right. People are tired of it. Now, on an esoteric note, when you allow refugees and immigrants to come into your country just to receive them because you think that where they come from is a destitute third world hellhole, yes, I'm using that term, then you are denying them the incentive to change their own homelands for the better. And we've got to understand that moving forward with any kind of immigration policy. If you like the podcast, please rate it and comment if your platform lets you. Go over to undergroundusa.com and subscribe to the Substack, and pick up your copy of Nullification, available on Amazon. But more importantly, talk to your friends, family, colleagues, and acquaintances about politics and religion. Do it calmly and employ facts over emotion. You'll be surprised how much you have in common with a great many of those you talk to. It's something we can all do to preserve the Republic. My name is Frank Salvato, and you're listening to Underground USA.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. My main focus was to be the best I could be on the basketball court. The first inkling that something was wrong was I started to notice that I couldn't do things without losing my breath. I still didn't think that it was anything serious until I couldn't make it through the airport. Every 20 or 30 yards, I had to sit down and get my breath. Every physical exertion seemed to exhaust me. I knew something was wrong, and then I went to a baseball game with some friends, and I couldn't deal with any exertion. And finally, I went from the baseball game to the hospital where I was diagnosed with AFib. When I first noticed symptoms, I should have gone to the doctor and told him what was happening. Instead, I tried to let it pass. It took me listening to the cardiologist to help me get it straight as to what I needed to do. AFib increases the risk of stroke about 5 times. So you need to go and find out what's happening. You need to know all of it, and you need to deal with it. It took me a while before I got wise. The No Time to Wait campaign expresses the urgency that people need to find out if they have AFib. I want my experience to help others understand the symptoms of atrial fibrillation. I didn't pay attention to my symptoms, which kept coming and going, or discuss them with my doctor. Experiencing irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, or any other AFib symptoms, including shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, you should talk to your doctor. When it comes to your health, this is no time to wait.